Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Blue Line Blast Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, alongside Matthew Blittner. We're back another episode. A lot of news to dive into. Exciting things happen in National Hockey League. We discussed some things earlier in the season with Russ Cohen as possibilities. Some things happened. Could be some more trade activity as we approach the holiday freeze. But, you know, Blockbuster's still open, even though the stores are not around. Matthew, what's going on, man?
Hey, Jim, that's a great line about, the stores aren't around anymore, but Blockbuster's still open. And I do just want to point out that in the calendar year of 2025, since we are coming to a close soon, there have been 3 Blockbuster deals on a Friday night in which it was after the news cycle had already ended, and 3 Blockbuster trades went down, and all 3 times I was staying at the apartment of my 2 best friends and was not able to get to a computer to have to weigh in on things. And that's January 24th with Mikko Rantanen, January 31st with JT Miller, and December 12th with Quinn Hughes. So NHL general managers out there, do me a favor. No more Friday night I had Blockbusters. Please, I'm begging you.
I mean, technically, we had a Mikko Rantanen got traded twice on a Friday because the deadline was on a Friday as well. So, I mean, like, we could have Friday trades. Just make it happen during the day, please.
Yes, please. And someone who knows a lot about trades, one of our guests last week, Neil Smith of the NHL Wraparound podcast, Stanley Cup champion, general manager with the New York Rangers, Stanley Cup champion scout with the New York Islanders. It has just come to everyone's attention. The announcement just came out a few hours ago that Neil Smith has been selected for induction into the 2026 New York State Hockey Hall of Fame class. So congrats to Neil on that. Jim, I will be up there covering the event as I always am. And yeah, just great job well done for career recognition for Neil.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Neil Smith, who was on with us last week. Like you said, we broke down the rumors surrounding Quinn Hughes, but they're not rumors anymore because Quinn Hughes got traded, but he did not get traded to New Jersey. He went to the Minnesota Wild. Z Booyam, Marco Rossi, Liam Ogren, 2026 first-round pick. What a haul from the Minnesota Wild. It is unprotected. Yes, it is unprotected. But Bill Guerin, the Minnesota Wild general manager, knows how to deal with Jim Rutherford, went all in, pushed the chips all in. He was late to the party a little bit, so he went with his best offer. Minnesota's deal fills all the needs necessary for the Vancouver Canucks, and nobody was coming close to this deal.
Jim, not only was no one coming close to the deal, no one saw that deal coming.
No, absolutely not.
There was no one, not even the insiders, saw Minnesota as being in on Quinn Hughes. Now, obviously, almost every team will inquire just because that it would be malpractice if you don't inquire when you find out a player of Quinn Hughes' caliber might be hitting the market. So I'm sure, more teams than what we even heard probably, called up Vancouver to be like, hey, just out of curiosity, what's the deal here? That's just standard practice. But the teams that supposedly were serious, New Jersey Devils, obvious because of, Quinn's brothers. The Detroit Red Wings, again, obvious, the Michigan thing. Philadelphia Flyers, although it didn't, from all reports, Philadelphia didn't actually get as serious as maybe other teams were. Surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, depending on how you want to look at it, the New York Rangers were in on it. Supposedly, they dangled Alexis Lafreniere and Braden Schneider as part of a package. That did not come anywhere close to what Minnesota gave. Washington was sort of on the peripheral of it, not really. But Minnesota came out of left field. It came out of a different stadium. Okay, they didn't even come out of left field. They came out of a different stadium. And when you look at it, first of all, it's the equivalent to 4 first-round picks, 3 first-round players, and then an actual first-rounder. Rossi is a proven second-line center who's only going to get better. Okay, so that right there is great. Biom, in a couple of years, he might be putting up maybe not Quinn Hughes numbers, but maybe what would you say, a half tier below Quinn Hughes?
Yeah, I'd say half tier. Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point.
Half tier. So right there, you've got that. Jim, how do you pronounce the Odrin?
Ogren. Yeah. By the way, just real quick, I just looked at the scoreboard as we're recording. Ogren scored tonight as we record for the Vancouver Canucks.
Of course, and Beam, had a goal and assist in the first 6 minutes of his Vancouver debut against the Devils of all teams. So, they're all getting on the board. But Odrin, he's a power forward. Maybe matures into becoming a top 6 guy. More likely, probably a middle sixer. Jim, it's a heck of a deal, and supposedly from the New Jersey Devils, because everyone thought Quinn Hughes was going to the Devils, whether it was going to be now or whether it was going to be in the offseason. Simone Nemec, Dawson Mercer, a first-round pick, and then depending on, which rumored reports, the fourth piece was either Seamus Casey, which sort of becomes a little redundant because of Simone Nemec in there. The KHL prospect, whose name is escaping me at the moment.
Anton Silyev.
There we go, Silyev, who he's still in the KHL, so, him coming over isn't happening anytime soon. And depending on reports, again, there was some unsubstantiated reports that Arseny Dritsyuk was involved, which would have completely shot them in the foot if they would have traded him, because then you're just killing their offense. Jim, even if whatever version of those four that you want to say is the final package that they offered, it doesn't measure up. Like, Simone Nemec is not Beam. He's not. He most likely never will be. Not to say that he can't become an excellent defenseman, because it looks like he's maturing, but he just never will be. Dawson Mercer is not Marco Rossi. Dawson Mercer at his best had 56 points. Marco Rossi in a down year had 60. Okay? Yeah. If you want to talk prospect to prospect, okay, we're not going to argue prospects. And then a first-round pick, first-round picks are just a going currency for a superstar player.
No, and look, and I think more and more we're coming out to find out a couple things here. Quinn Hughes had the official no-trade clause where he was basically, him and his agent were basically just feeling offers. They wanted to get him to come east. Jim Rutherford said in his press availability on Friday night, he wanted to be close to his brothers, his family. Minnesota had the best offer. They were trying to go out east, but Minnesota stepped up in the west. Okay, that's fine. And also,
apparently Minnesota is technically the central of the United States.
Right, so exactly. He wanted to be closer to his family. Pretty much, let's just put it that way. He wanted to be closer to his family. Okay, what did Vancouver want? Well, listening to Patrick Allvin talk, and listening to Rutherford talk, they wanted players that could play now. Look at the Devils' injuries. Simone Nemec is out. We don't know when he's coming back. Like, let's be honest. Yeah, so right there alone.
Day to day. He was just placed on IR.
Right. So there alone, that's a piece that the Vancouver Canucks don't want to have because they've already are dealing with Filipino. So they're not making that same mistake. Like you said, Silyev is years away. A few years away from coming here. They need guys now. So they want to get younger and they want NHL-ready players now. Not happening. Casey's still got to work out through the minors. They're not sending Gritsu. We know what Vancouver wanted. We know who Vancouver wanted. The Devils said no. Plain as day, their top center was not going to Vancouver. So
this was not going to be a trade of captains.
No, exactly. So right there alone, you have to rationalize and realize, and I'm not trying to take shots at anybody here, but you have to rationalize and realize that it just was never going to be in the cards to make this work. Even though Quinn Hughes thought he was probably going to New Jersey, Vancouver and New Jersey were playing each other. They were trying to work it out to make sure that he just stayed in New Jersey. The fact that a contract extension, whether you want to believe it or not, was on the table, I kind of believe the agent when he says we didn't guarantee anything to anybody. So, again, was New Jersey in a position to make this trade? No. they have too many injuries, and they don't want to deplete up their lineup even more. And the final thing I'll say as part of this package, you heard it, I've heard it, the team has said it, most scouts have said it. Dawson Mercer's better on the wing. So they're alone. They don't have.
The other day.
He said it the other day. Sheldon Keefe said it the other day. So right there, the Canucks don't even have a center in this package. So nothing New Jersey had was going to make this deal work.
No. And look, one thing that you didn't even touch on, the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
From a cap standpoint, the Devils couldn't make it work. And, depending on who you want to believe in, Kevin Weeks was out there, I believe yesterday, reporting that some deals were vetoed. We don't know by who, but some deals were vetoed in regards to potentially moving Dougie Hamilton and Andre Palat. The Devils can't afford, with their injuries, they can't afford to move out an Andre Palat just in terms of having a healthy body forward-wise.
Yeah. Or D. Or Hamilton D, too, right?
Yeah,
I know they're getting Pesci back, but still, you still can't lose another body on the back end.
Right. So the deal would have, if the Devils would have been able to get, and again, Quinn is not eligible for a contract extension until July 1st anyway. If they would have known, hey, listen, he's going to re-sign with us and then eventually get him re-signed, then you live with it a little bit of, well, we're getting a little weaker right now to potentially be stronger down the line, which, obviously, Quinn's what? He's 26.
Yeah.
You live with that a little bit, but you don't know if he's going to stay and re-up. No. There's no assurances as his agent, Pat Brisson, said with Minnesota, there's no assurances of anything. What if Quinn decided that he didn't like it in New Jersey? Then they're really screwed.
Well, I mean, I think I don't know if you've heard the same things I've heard, but I've always heard that as the older brother of everything, he's seen what Luke's doing in New Jersey, and he kind of doesn't want to stunt that growth and doesn't want to, have him take a back seat to be the number one guy on that defense. Because Quinn comes in, he's going to take a lot of the minutes that Luke's getting right now. And I know people's like, well, he could play the right side and this and that and the other thing. Yeah, but I think Fitzgerald's also said Luke needs to write his own legacy and write his own story. And I've kind of listened to Luke the other day when he was asked after the post-game availability, after I got done from being on the ice reffing. I heard him talk about it, and he's like, yeah, it'd be cool. We've always talked about it, maybe one day at the NHL, definitely USA. Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool. He's the second best defenseman, but it's like the way he was kind of saying it, and he's kind of calm and cool anyway. It's like it didn't really bother him because he's focused on winning right now. And I think that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, no, look, the impression I got from Luke was the same in terms of, he wants to, he's just focused on winning right now. Obviously, the Devils have been having a bit of a rough go, win-loss wise, ever since Jack went down with an injury. I'm going to push back a little bit on the Luke wouldn't have gotten the minutes thing, because even if Luke plays the second pair, okay, let Quinn plays top pair, Luke plays second pair, depending on the way things are going, I mean, Luke is still probably going to average 24 minutes a night. Yeah. And to be honest, with how much he turns the puck over still, if you're going to say, okay, Luke, listen, instead of playing 26 minutes a night, you're going to play 23 and a half, 24 minutes, you probably live with that because it means less chance for turnovers.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Probably want that.
Look, and I want to bring it back to the cap space for a minute. Look, and I'll live with the turnovers, and I'll live with whatever happens, but he's got to work on his game, and the turnovers have to. But that's a product of him playing the right side and not playing on his strong side, and have to learn, and realizing this isn't college hockey where you can make plays that you could do at Michigan, and even at Michigan, he turned the puck over. But back to the cap space thing. You and I said this over the summer. We said it at the beginning of the season. We've talked about this with Matt Laughlin and a bunch of other people that have been on. The players have the right to these contracts. They negotiated these contracts. But this was a big year for this team. And they believed this was the group that could get them deep in the playoffs. Now you have to decide what this group's all about. And I do eventually think they probably move on from Hamilton, whether it's at the deadline, whether it's in the summer. I think that's probably summer, right? I think that's something that they're really going to have to go down. Same with Palat. I really do believe, like, if you can get that money out of there, that's a thing, but you just can't do it to do it. Because, again, you can bring in all the bodies you want, but it's not going to change the fact that the team's still not playing the right way. When this team wants to play the right way, they can win games with anybody. If they don't, and they take nights off, they're going to lose and they're going to struggle. Now, what other deals they can make? They still have to make clear cap space, whether it's for Ryan O'Reilly, whether it's for Steven Stamkos, all these other names they've been connected with, Vano, Braden Shen, this one, Kadri. First of all, Kadri's not leaving Calgary unless the Devils give him a fantastic offer, and they don't even have the package to give him a fantastic offer. Blake Coleman's not coming back as much as he would be great for the Devils. Sheldon Keefe. Tom Fitzgerald has shown that he doesn't bring back former players. It just doesn't happen. Outside Stephanie
Nathan and Thomas Tatar.
That's it. And Tatar didn't need to happen. That's fine. But other than that, he really hasn't shown that ability to do it. But I think there is pressure on the general manager, despite the reports and everything. He needs to get things right because it is such a big year for this team, and injuries are no longer an excuse in my book.
No, they're not an excuse anymore. I'm going to push back a little bit from what I'm hearing. It doesn't seem like Fitzgerald is in any imminent danger. The seat may be a little warm just because, they've been struggling. Any GM seat is going to be a little warm when the team struggles. So I don't really put anything into that. One thing I will say about the players and everyone, there were two things that were said over the weekend that caught my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Sheldon Keefe, essentially, without using the actual words, essentially admitted that it weighed on the players that, oh my goodness, the team might get severely changed because, people might be traded for Quinn Hughes. As much as the players denied it, and I mean, let's be honest, what are the players ever going to actually say that during the season? They'd be like, oh, yeah.
Didn't Paul Cotter say it post-game on Saturday, though? I heard his audio. Didn't he say it kind of affected the room a little bit?
He said he didn't think it affected the room.
Okay.
Sheldon Keefe said that, whether it weighed on anyone or not, I don't know, but, it's good to not have it hanging over anymore. So you're admitting it without really admitting type of thing.
Well, we know it affected Vancouver's room.
Yeah, and then to your other point of how they can play with anyone when they're, Sheldon Keefe said, sometimes he feels the team gets a little mentally defeated a little too easily.
Mm.
That's the more concerning aspect in my book. The Devils have to get better at that in terms of whether it's a back-to-back or just, facing a good team or just, I'm reminded of in 2018, the Rangers had waved the white flag. They sent out the letter, the now infamous letter. And, sorry, was it 2018? It was either 2018 or 2019 when
2018, 2019 season-ish.
No, it was either in 2018 or it was in 2019. Either way, I was in Montreal, and no, sorry, I wasn't in Montreal, but I was covering the team, and Matt Zuccarello literally had tears in his eyes during after a morning skate when we were talking to him, saying how he can't eat, he can't sleep because the rumors of him potentially being traded were weighing on him. That was and is an absolutely stunning admission, and I credit Zuccarello for being open and honest, because, let's be fair, most players will never give that admission during a season. For him to openly admit that, Jim, the Devils players were never going to openly admit that, oh my goodness, this was weighing on us. None of them were ever going to say that. And I will give them credit for that. But at the same time, if the coach is the one who is confirming, unconfirming, quasi-confirming it, it goes to show that there's something there that maybe needs to be fixed. I think GM Tom Fitzgerald needs to, at some point, beyond addressing the media, which I know fans are calling for, and a lot of the media is calling for. I'm not calling for that.
I'm not calling for it.
Fitzgerald needs to walk into the Devil's room, and who say he hasn't already, but he needs to walk into the room, and he needs to have an open and frank conversation with the entire roster, injured players and healthy players together, because this is beyond the coach at this point. Okay? He has to go in there, and he has to talk with the players. Listen, yes, some guys might get moved. Some of you are going to be here, obviously. Our goal is to win. If you can help us win, you're obviously going to stay. If you can't, listen, we'll work with you to say, okay, where do you want to go? That type of open and frank conversation needs to happen behind closed doors. We don't need to report on it, but that's what needs to happen right now.
No, I agree 100%. I agree before we move on, and because I know we got a guest coming up. But I just want one final point on this. I agree with you 100%. And he has to step up and make the tough decisions. He talked about it at the end of the year, talked about it in the summer, tough decisions, not coming back with the same roster. Changing the bottom 6 players, to me, is not tough decisions because we all know all those guys are not coming back anyway. So when it's that obvious, it starts with the core. The mental toughness is a problem. People have been noticing it. Every time something little goes wrong, this team just can't bounce back from it. And it's been a pattern for a while since this core has been together. They need to stop the snowball effect. It starts with them. Tom Fitzgerald, agree, behind the doors, because their mental capacity right now is not really good. So that's my 2 cents on that, because I know we got to go to a break soon, and we got to bring in our special guest, correct?
Speaking of which, yeah, you're right. We have a special guest from Pro Hockey West Report, Stephen Marsh, who covers the Vegas Golden Knights as well as the Henderson Silver Knights. Pretty much all things Vegas hockey. Stephen covers. So we'll be right back with Stephen after a word from our non-existent sponsor break. And there's the mugs. Welcome back from our non-existent sponsor break, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I'm Matthew Blittner, co-host Jim Biringer, and we're now joined from Pro Hockey West Report, reporter Stephen Marsh. Stephen, welcome to the Blue Line Blast podcast. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm spent a week on the East Coast, as you know. I was there for the Golden Knights road trip to New York and New Jersey and Philly, and got back. Was it last Friday night? And as much as I enjoyed being on the East Coast, I'm happy to be back in 70-degree weather in Las Vegas. So it's not trying to rub it in, anything, but
just keep rubbing it in, Steven. We got snow on the ground and it's cold.
Yeah,
the New Jersey Devils are on their way here to Vegas. They should be ready for this nice warmer weather here.
Yeah, I believe the Devils took off about an hour or two ago. But Stephen, to get started here with the Vegas Golden Knights, obviously, they stumbled a little early on in the season. Now, of course, they're atop the Pacific Division. What is the loss of Alex Pietrangelo, who, he was the leader of the team leader, obviously defensive stalwart? What has that loss meant to the franchise and the team on the ice?
Well, I think there's no doubt that they miss him. I think what he brought on the ice, both in just he used up a lot of minutes. He was a very heavy minutes guy, one of the leaders on certainly for defensemen, but really for any of the skaters on time on ice. He was, he was always involved in the plays and everything. And obviously and not so much just what he brought on the ice, which he brought a lot on the ice, but what he brought off the ice and just in the locker room, the way he talked with the teammates, the communication in the locker rooms that you would see him involved with. And I think they miss a little bit of that. I think they've had to kind of figure out some other guys that maybe had to step up and kind of be that vocal guy that Pietrangelo was in the locker room. And that's not to say he's not still around the team. I think he probably still comes to the facility and with them. But I think certainly just in that game moment that he brought on the ice, and certainly a voice too that they don't have in that locker room. Maybe when they're in a close game and they need that leadership voice or something like that. I think it kind of goes twofold.
Yeah, Stephen, that's a great point there on Pietrangelo. And I was asked about this earlier in the season. I want to get your take on it. Mark Stone's such a big leader as well, and such a big voice in that room, but also with his play on the ice. It seems like anytime he goes down out of that lineup, and he's finally back and healthy, but it seems like once he came back from his injury, seemed like the Golden Knights offensively started to get going again.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Stone makes this team better, and again, Mark Stone is the captain for a reason. But I think, in fact, until just the last game that they played, which was the Saturday game in Columbus, every game that he had played, obviously he missed some time, but the first few games that he played before he went out, and then obviously since he's returned, he had a point in the game, whether it be a goal or an assist. He's factored in the scoring in some capacity in every game that he had played this year until the last game. So he makes the team better. I mean, they use him on the penalty kill. They use him on the power play. Obviously, they use him on 5-on-5. The way he's able to make plays or finish plays is something that, and especially on the power play, is a real key part of their power play. When he went down, their power play kind of was in flux for a little bit of time. Then they kind of called up a guy from the AHL that's really come onto the scene, Braden Bowman, and kind of stabilized it. But obviously, Stone came back, went back on his power play, the top unit, and obviously has been a factor. So yeah, Mark Stone makes this team a lot better, and they were able to kind of get through it without him being in the lineup. And really, and the thing with Stone, of course, is he's been out a lot. I mean, he even talked about it. He's tired of having these stints where he's out, but obviously he's had several long-term injuries that's kept him out of the lineup for a significant time. And Vegas has been able to kind of manage it and get through it. But then times that he's come back in, like a couple years ago, he comes back in at the start of the playoffs, and then they go make that run to the Stanley Cup, and then just other things, that he's had to miss a lot of time, and then he comes back in, and once he kind of gets readjusted, then all of a sudden Vegas becomes a much more dangerous team to play against.
Speaking of being a dangerous team, and one of the things that's allowed them to maybe weather the loss of a Mark Stone better this year has been the addition of Mitch Marner, who he's, as of this recording, he's second on the team in points behind Jack Eichel. He's averaging just over 20 minutes a night, I believe. His possession numbers are off the charts better compared to where they were in Toronto. He's starting more in the offensive zone for his shifts, more so than he's ever done in his career. What are you seeing out of what Mitch Marner has brought to this team, a different dimension, a different look?
Yeah, I think with Mitch Marner, I think what you're getting from him, in Toronto, I think there was a lot of focus on. There was a lot of, I guess, pressure would be the word. He was kind of counted on as being one of the main guys, or almost the main guy to produce. Obviously, he was a Toronto guy, so there was a lot on him. And I think the change of venue coming to Vegas, I think, has been beneficial for him. Yeah, maybe he's not. People are saying, well, he's not scoring as much as he was. But his number, 32 points you mentioned, second in the league, second in the team. Just over a point per game, so he's getting the production there. But goals, he's only got 6 goals. But he's more of a kind of a passer kind of guy. I think playing with Eichel, I think playing with the guys that he's played with so far, I think has been beneficial. And I think he's still trying to get adjusted to being in a new team. This is the first new team he's been on, and whether it's his 9th year in the league now. So I think there's some adjustment that he has to get. And I think Cassidy's been answered questions about Marner, and I think that Bruce Cassidy, the head coach of the Golden Knights, the team is still trying to get adjusted to what he's able to do. Whether it's play off the wall or he more likes to get into the center of the action, more where the blue line is. So I think there's an adjustment, as I think a player of his caliber takes time when you're so used to playing with one team and one group of guys, and then you're having to come out to play with Vegas. But I think Mitch is performing. I think that's different too with Vegas too, and I think other people will say this about Vegas, is they've got so many good players that maybe Mitch isn't going to need to be relied on heavily. Maybe when it comes playoffs time, it might be the case. But right now, they can get production from a lot of different guys that maybe Mitch doesn't have to be the guy. You got Eichel. You got, as you mentioned, we've talked about Stone. We've got William Karlsson, who's not in the lineup right now, but he comes back. They've got a lot of guys that can really produce the offense. Of course, they pick up Marner because of his skill and the offense that maybe they feel like he missed. But I don't think they have to say it's Mitch they don't have to solely rely on Mitch for Vegas to be successful. But when he is doing well, obviously Vegas can be much more successful than when he's not. But I think there's a different dynamic there between that and then when Toronto, where everything was focused on pretty much Mitch and a couple other guys. Mitch, and he got all the brunt of the criticism and all the a lot of the praise too. So, but it's different in Vegas. I think it's a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, a little bit more relaxed out in Vegas too. Even though, like,
Yes.
I know players. Some of them sometimes have to be on edge because general manager Kelly McCrimmon, and he has probably the best quote in the business. I'm in the winning business, not the hockey business, and he's really reshaped this team. Like when they first came in, and even through their cup run, it was a heavy team, heavy physical. Their defense big. But they've changed this team offensively. I think it started with Eichel. I mean, what an addition to him and the new extension. You get a guy like that to stay. But I've noticed one thing, I think, and I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but I want to ask you on the back end. We mentioned Pietrangelo, but it just seems like that defense, they're going to try to transition to maybe a little bit more speed, a little younger, because I've noticed over the last couple playoff runs outside their Stanley Cup final run where they won, their defense is kind of getting beaten now by faster teams just because of the old and slow on the back end. Are they trying to transition and try to get similar to what they have up front?
I think so. I think so, but I think also you've got a guy in Caden Korzak is kind of taken over a full-time role this year. He's been a guy that's been in their systems, come up through the AHL, and has kind of been the last couple of years. He's been kind of in as an as-needed basis. They carried 8 defensemen last year, but as you mentioned, with Pietrangelo being out, they also lost Nick Hague too, which was a big physical presence on the D line, and then the Cup run too. Since they won the Stanley Cup, they also they no longer have Alec Martinez, who was a big part of their Cup run too, and so they've gotten a bit young. They picked up Jeremy Lauzon, but Lauzon has been injured, although he's close to getting back from what I understand. So he was skating today at practice. So they picked him up. I think is to kind of fill some of those roles that maybe they lost in the blue line, to still have some of that physical presence. But yeah, you got Zach Whitecloud. You got Braden McNabb, who's been with the team since the beginning. Is Shea Theodore still one of the better defensemen in the game. So they still are pretty good defensively. And that is one thing that Cassidy kind of builds this team on is being strong defensively. And I think we're seeing that as when Vegas won the Cup, and I think we're seeing it with Florida's done. I think having a strong defensive core is going to be good because it does take a lot of pressure off the goaltending. It takes such pressure off. Maybe you don't have to score as many goals. But it's maybe the defense has not been as sharp as it's been in years past, but I think it's progressing better recently than maybe the start of the season, where it was a lot more loose, and you were seeing players getting opportunities, the speed and outworking the defensemen. But it's tightened up some recently.
And now, you mentioned the tall players just now, and of course, their injury issues. So may as well dive in there. Adin Hill, goaltending wise, he's been out since I believe the end of October. Right. You mentioned William Karlsson, Jeremy Lauzon, who you said is skating. Earlier today, Shea Theodore was announced that he has a lower body injury. Just what are you seeing? It seems like they have this next man up mentality, but at the same time, like, these are some pretty key guys, and you'd have to imagine the ripple effect. I mean, if Adin Hill doesn't go down, I hate to get controversial here, but that's sort of what we do. Do they go out and sign Carter Hart if Adin Hill doesn't get hurt? And, how's the team reacted to having Carter Hart around?
Yeah, Carter Hart has been he's been really good. I mean, his numbers have been great. I mean, the games that he's played 4 games now. He's been pretty fantastic. He's played in extra time pretty much all the games that he's started, except I guess the Columbus game. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because you do wonder that if Hill had, but they know, I think Hill has a tendency to get injured. He has had several times where he has been out. So, and they have Akira Schmid, who has been a serviceable backup. He played in the AHL. I mean, you guys probably a little bit more about him being out in Jersey there at this time with the Devils. But he's been solid this year. I mean, he's had some good numbers this year. I mean, he's come in and he's had they were splitting between him and Lindbaum, who was a goalie they called up from the American Hockey League, who was basically his first NHL action, in the sense that he was here. He's still like a young kid, I call him, because he's like in his second year pro. But so they were kind of treading water there for a little bit until Hart was available to play with them. I do wonder, I think they probably would have looked at Hart anyway, because I think they weren't really sure what they were going to get with Schmid. I mean, they brought him in. They was played mostly in the AHL last year, struggled at times with Henderson team that kind of had its struggles anyway. And then they brought him up for like the later part of the regular season, and they were good. They even used him over. They had Samsonov last year as their other goalie, but they went with Schmid as the backup to Hill, and obviously Hill got the back action of the playoffs. But this year, yeah, I think with Hill going out, I think it really gave an opportunity for Schmid to get some good time in, and he's been good. Lindbaum, he was still young. He had some moments there. Maybe that was a period where Vegas wasn't scoring offensively as you would have liked, as Stone was out during some of that, and they had some of the other things. So, but Hart has come in, and I think Hart it's one of those things where it's a controversial signing just because of the stuff with him his past, but just from an on-ice thing, and really the fact that he hasn't really played. Well, he hasn't played an NHL game in almost 2 years, until he got his first start here in Vegas on the 2nd of December. He did get a few starts in Henderson as conditioning leading up to this start, time now with Vegas. But I think it's worked out for them, obviously, now, because now they've got Hill when he comes back, and it may not be for a while still when Hill comes back. There's some reports out there that are saying it could be some time still. But they have Hart and they have Schmid. And if Hill comes back into the conversation, then you've got 3 goalies, and most likely Schmid goes down to the AHL, or they maybe look to trade one away. I don't think they're going to trade Hart away, and I don't think they're going to trade Hill away, because they've got him under a contract for a lot of years and a lot of money. So maybe Schmid would become a piece that they could trade if they even need to do that, or they could just send him down to the AHL. So I think they feel pretty good with the goaltending. I think getting Hart, certainly helped a need for them, because I think the uncertainty of what could have happened Hill got injured, and he of course did get injured and had to ride with that. So I think it's been beneficial for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to ask one more question, because I know on time, but I just wanted to ask you something, because you brought up potential trades. What do you think the biggest need for this team is as we approach, because we're going to get to the holiday freeze, but we're going to have the Olympic break as well, but then March 6th trade deadline comes up real quick, and we know Vegas is very aggressive. What is the biggest need for this team at that time?
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, I guess bottom. The depth scoring is something that's been kind of an issue a little bit. A little bit of an issue this year. I mean, you're getting the production from some of your top guys, but a lot of the guys that they have in the bottom 6 have maybe not produced to what extent that you would like. I mean, Brandon Saad, thinking of Reinhardt, although he's still pretty young. But, you don't necessarily get a lot of scoring from your bottom 6 anyway, but you just like that every once in a while. Riley Smith is they have him and hasn't really produced as they probably would like him to. So maybe somewhere there, but I don't really see. I guess we'd have to see in a couple of months where the team is, because I think because the fact that Carlson is still out, I think when you get Carlson back in your lineup, that's somebody that's gonna make your lineup better. He's a center. That makes I think they're pretty set on having centers between Eichel and Stone, and got Hurdle, Carlson. Well, not Stone, but I mean Hurdle and Howden and Carlson when he's back, and they got Sissons too, and then they got decent wingers too. I mean, this team has got a potential to really make a deep run. They, like I said, you just got to see everybody back, and like I said, once Carlson comes back, we'll see on Shea Theodore. It doesn't sound like Cassie's too concerned on Theodore, but maybe you can get another big body on your defensive core. But if Lozon can stay healthy, that's somebody I think that can help with that. But definitely, I think maybe you can get a solid another bottom 6 guy. I think probably would maybe be something that you could look at if that opportunity presents itself.
Very well said, Stephen. Thank you for the analysis of all things Vegas Golden Knights. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out Stephen Marsh at Pro Hockey West Report. And we'll be back with you with more hockey talk here on the Blue Line Blast podcast after our next non-existent sponsor break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from our second non-existent sponsor break of the show. Wow, we're really getting a lot of use out of that on this one. The mud right there and everything, Jim.
I gotta be prepared. Boy Scouts, baby. Gotta be prepared always.
Absolutely. For those of you who just are tuning in, that was just our conversation with Stephen Marsh of Pro Hockey West Report about all things Vegas Golden Knights. Jim, we talked at the beginning of the show about the Quinn Hughes trade and the ripple effects, and obviously how the non-trade to New Jersey affected the Devils. Well, there was another trade that happened, I believe it was maybe about 24 hours before Quinn Hughes was traded, and that was a goalie swap. Tristan Jarry from Pittsburgh went to Edmonton for Stuart Skinner. Now, there were a couple ancillary pieces going both ways, but the headline is Skinner for Jarry. Skinner's days in Edmonton are over. Jarry's days in Pittsburgh are over. And Jim, I'm going to come right out and say this right now. Neither team got a better goalie out of that.
Is that your blast from the blue line?
That's my blast from the blue line. That's my blast from the red line. That's my blast from the damn goal, from the opposite goal line.
No, I mean, look, I agree with you because all I've read and heard and reported and talked about was, well, Stan Bowman's going to make a change and goalie trade when he feels the time is right. And if there's a better option out there. You could have gotten Tristan Jarry last year on waivers. By the way, the guy played 11 games in the AHL in Wilkes-Barre last year. So he's on waivers for free. You could have made the trade in the summer, beginning of the season. To come out and tell me after Skinner's playing well that if he started to play bad, the noise was going to affect him. And then we had to move him. That tells me you wanted to move him earlier, and you should have. The noise was there after they lost in the Stanley Cup final. So don't tell me about the noise. The Penguins didn't want Jarry to be retained. So they needed two pieces. And I don't think Edmonton really wanted to give up Brett Kulak, but they did to go back the other way. And now, yeah, I mean, Jarry played great, but again, his first game against the Leafs was .893 save percentage. I'm like, Stuart Skinner was giving you that. I'm sorry. I don't like to trade for either team. I'm just not. It's not an upgrade to me. Did they upgrade in the sense that, yeah, he's a little bit better, but the numbers are the same, and now everything rides on Jarry because Pickard is whatever, and I think they would have rather had Jarry and Skinner. Personally, I would have just upgraded other ancillary areas and waited till the summer. But Stan Bowman felt that the internal noise would have gotten to him again. I agree with you. I don't think this was an upgrade, but I guess they felt the time was right.
So I'm going to disagree with you on that. They should have just done ancillary pieces and then waited for the summer. No, Edmonton had to act. They had to act a year ago. They had to act 2 years ago for the goaltending. So I'm not going to disparage them acting now. They had to act. But Jim, they could have... Heck, Jim, we were talking Devils earlier. They could have had Nico Dawes for crying out loud. Okay?
I mean, he was on waivers. I thought, I'll be honest, when he got put on waivers, I thought Edmonton was going to scoop him. I really did.
They could have had Nico Dawes if they wanted, a goalie. Tristan Jarry, at his best, yes, is better than Stuart Skinner at his best. But Jarry has next to no playoff experience, where Skinner has quite a bit of playoff experience over the last couple of years. Neither of them is reliable. Neither of them, is going to really hold down on the fort. And actually, while we're recording this, I believe they're actually facing off against each other.
They are.
Edmonton, is Jarry, as you said, are they really going to be better with Jarry in net? No. Is Pittsburgh going to be better with Skinner? I mean, he's not. I don't think he's going to be their number one, so I don't think they have as much to worry about because they have the young kid who's pretty much taking over. But Jim, the only way I see this as being a successful trade is if you look at it through the lens of, well, here's two mediocre goalies who both needed a change of scenery. That's the only way, to me, that this trade can be viewed as a positive. Because, if you look at it, they're both pretty much the same goalie in terms of ability and skill.
Except Skinner's gone to the final back-to-back seasons.
Right, but they haven't gotten there because of him. They've gotten there.
Well, I mean, look, I think I'll disagree with that because in the Western Conference Final, I played Dick Onger 2 years in a row.
Yes, he played very well in that particular series. But Jarry has had moments where he's played very well too. Okay, but it's not like Skinner carried them the way, let's say, like a Vezina caliber goalie would carry a team. He is not.
No. I agree with that part. I agree with. I think the part I'm like, it's just like you said, it's too mediocre goalies being traded for each other.
Right. So it's pretty much change of scenery, and you hope that they're just better in the new scenery than the old scenery.
Right.
And that's all I'm going to say on that trade. And speaking of trades, though, something that's not really a trade, but I'm going to say it's a trade a little bit. I'm going to use a bit of a car salesman phrase here. The Buffalo Sabres have finally, to the delight of their fans, they have traded in their GM Adams for Jarmo Kekäläinen, who was the GM of previously the general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets. So it's not really a trade, but they're trading. It's like a car in a sense. You're trading in one for another.
But they got an upgrade. But this is an upgraded car because Jarmo Kekäläinen has a history of being aggressive. Whether it works out or not, it did work out in Columbus. He brought in all those guys. He got Panarin. He got Bobrovsky. He brought in Duchesne. That 2019 team was really good. Got to the second round, beat a very good Lightning team. But he went all in because he wanted to have a chance to win, and he probably knew none of those guys were staying. But you know what? They were a good team, and they went deep in the playoffs. They made a nice run in the second round. He got Johnny Hockey, the late great Johnny Gaudreau, to go to Columbus. That allowed Sean Monahan to come in and bring in some other pieces to that team. Once you knew he was hired as a special advisor to Kevin Adams,
I believe you forgot Adam Fantilli as well.
Adam Fantilli, drafted Adam Fantilli, drafted a lot of good players. Kent Johnson, a lot of good talent that they have in there. Jack Greaves, I believe, is one of his draft picks as well. But my point is this. Once he got hired as a special advisor, Kevin Adams' clock was ticking. Like, the minute he came into the organization, the clock was ticking. Probably should have been fired last year. Didn't have the replacement. Had the replacement in-house. He wants to go keep Alex Tuch. I would not be shocked to see Lindy Ruff gone. They make a coaching change. Not right away, I'm saying. But they're going to try to find their guy, bring him in, and let that team and try to make changes to his roster because he wants good culture, character guys, change the culture, and change the attitude of this team because he believes this team can get back to the playoffs.
Jim, you want to talk about changing culture, and there's not too many coaches out there who are free of any current, contracts who are going to change the culture in a way that you're going to want. But Jim, there is one.
Yep.
And I don't know if we're on the same wavelength here or not. But him and Jarmo have worked together before in Columbus. You want to talk about a culture changer? His initials are JT.
And we're not talking JT Miller.
No, we're not talking JT Miller, who has not changed the culture in the New York.
No, he has not. John Tortorella.
Jarmo bringing in Tortorella to Buffalo. That's
the hot name right now. Jim. That is the hot name. Look, it would be the right decision. I don't know. I think it was towards his last stand in Philadelphia. I'm going to be honest. Could I see it? Yes.
Well, Jim, how old is Torts right now?
I want to say late 50s.
let's see. I'm looking it up. Tortorella is 67. Wow.
67. I was way off.
6'7". 6'7".
6'7" ish.
Yeah, wow. When did Torch get to become 67 years old?
I don't know. He's been around in the league for a while, but look, I think Torts, he'd be good in Buffalo. I think there's Pete DeBoer.
Bring him in on a 2-year deal. Bring him in on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, but then that's just Lindy Ruff all over again. Do you really want to do that?
Well, no. So here's what I'm saying. You have Torts completely, Torts is quick when it comes to changing culture. Okay?
I know he is. He's very quick.
And let him be that transitional guy that fixes the culture, or at least does a lot of the heavy lifting. And then, because I doubt that Torch is going to want to keep going at 70 years old. So bring him in on a quick 2-year thing. And, you let him build. And then the team will take off thanks to his hard work.
I guess. Pete DeBoer's still out there. Bruce Boudreau would be a nice mix.
I don't know that Boudreau moves the needle on it.
No, but he brings a positivity as a coach that this team really desperately needs right now. Like, desperately needs it. And he could whip guys into shape real quick because he's a good coach. But again, a lot of these guys, like Pete DeBoer, I think would be the guy because I think Torts likes TV and Boudreau's doing great in his other stuff. But those are some names. Can you find somebody else? I think they got it. I think you got to look at the roster, see what you have. He wants to keep Tuck. He wants to move some pieces around. It's going to be aggressive. Accountability. And you want to bring in a coach that, this is a nice transition here with what's going on right now with coaches around the league and teams around the league setting standards and accountability. A lot of players missing time, being healthy scratches because of missing team meetings. This is an old school type of thing, but we saw Sagan early in his career in Boston get a healthy scratch because he missed the bus, missed team meetings. Barzell recently, team meeting, missed. He takes a healthy scratch trip to the press box. Because the Benajad in New York misses. Mike Sullivan says, no, you're on the bench. I like it. Like, I really like it because it holds it's not just, it's the third or fourth line guy that misses a meeting. He's always the one that gets punished. It's accountability across the board, and I like it.
I love it. And, for everyone out there who says, coaches can't control the players anymore because the players make so much money and the coaches don't make that much, and the balance of power is completely shifted. Yeah, you know what? The balance of power has shifted. That's an obvious over the years. But to see the coaches, and not necessarily just old school coaches who, are set in their ways, but all types of coaches now doing so, Jim, I think it's a home run that they are holding these players and these, as you said, it's not third and fourth line guys. Meet the manager is the top line guy. Matthew Barzal is the face of the New York
line guy.
Yeah, he is the New York Islanders. To be able to do that, and I think there was someone else actually just today who also was healthy scratched for missing a team meeting.
Hey, that's good. Look, gotta keep these accountable.
Yeah, having accountability is great, and I think maybe the balance of power had shifted a little too much towards the players over the years, and now it's coming back a little bit. And
you just gotta find that happy medium. I'm not doing this 6-7 thing again, but you gotta find that happy medium, like in the middle, where it's a good player to coach, like dynamic, where we understand protocol, what the guidelines are, what your rules are. Because if you miss the rules, not saying go all the way to lose rules, but like there's got to be a medium where every player has to be held accountable because that's how championship teams are built.
Absolutely, Jim. We are in full agreement there, and I believe we are just about out of time this week.
Hey, jam-packed episode, guys, here on Blue Line Blast Podcast. We thank everybody for following along, watching our material, commenting, subscribing to the channel, bringing you the best stuff that we can here ahead of the game. As always, everywhere with you guys. And, again, talked about Quinn Hughes, talked about the Tristan Jarry trades as well. Great guest, Stephen Marsh. talking about Vegas Golden Knights. We're getting the Buffalo Sabres jam-packed episode, accountability throughout the board. Again, Jim Biringer, Matthew Blittner, guys, Blue Line Blast podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Please subscribe, like, and comment. We'll be back again next week. Take care.